It's amazing that no one's had the hiccups on broadcast. Not that I can remember, anyway. Fortunately, I have the trick that I use to get rid of hiccups, and it works like half the time, is to like draw in a really big breath and then a little more, actually, and then hold it. And apparently that like drawing a deep breath and then another breath on top of that actually like activates something in your brain that doesn't affect hiccups, but it affects something else. It affects, like, you do it when you want to calm down. If you have like anxiety, like you have like an anxiety attack, apparently that does something in your brain. So I wonder if like whatever it does in your brain, because I totally forgot where I learned this. I'm just making shit up, telling you a bunch of false truths. And maybe that's why like the brain also is like, oh, okay, never mind. Because like hiccups are just like you're getting out of order, right? Anyway, it's like a reset. I fixed it. So, we got a PVZ. Max Pax is doing pretty well in this matchup as well. Again, he's not going to EWC. There were rumors, as there have been for the last 2 years, that he was thinking about it, and I do believe him when he, you know, he thinks about it more legitimately every tournament. But I also think that, like, his parents influence him, and he's got social anxiety. These are all guesses. He's never confirmed anything, but like that's my guess, and he is still relatively young. So getting under the, getting quote unquote over that stuff is pretty difficult. Anyway, he is very good at PVZ. So while he might not be at EWC, as we were discussing in the chat, he very well might be like the most abused practice partner right now. Someone who is absolutely not going to be your opponent in this premier event, but who would very likely be one of your hardest opponents if he did go to the premier event. I mean, you just don't usually get that good of practice. So usually you always have to worry about the guy you're practicing against in these tournaments being someone you're going to face, and then you just revealed how you're playing. And while I don't think there's really a lot of amazing behind-the-scenes stories of someone hiding a superb style or a superb build, I do think it does exist to some degree. And it could very well be the tiniest little things, like how people set their overlords. It can be something to look into. How people send their probe over. How often people are aggressive with their adepts versus defensive. You know? So Max Pax does open up with a Stargate. He goes pretty quickly into a Twilight Council, though. So maybe a Resonant Glaives follow-up. Reynor has had some troubles in this matchup and does emphasize on his stream how important the Oracle damage is, or hopefully lack thereof. And that if you do lose just one too many drones in the early game, it can feel like an uphill battle. And that means you say more than 1 or 2 drones. I'm talking maybe 1 or 2 drones, actually. For some Zergs, it might be that extreme. For others, it's maybe more like if you lose 5, then yeah, you might as well tap out right then and there. 1 or 2 is acceptable, but any more than that, and you're dead. So far, only 1 drone and a Ling have died. Their Nexus is on the way. The Overlord was actually rather courageously perched. I don't know if Reynor personally did that or what, but the Stalker was built, something that he's probably going to be very, frustrated with, because it also killed the Overlord. Oh! I was going to say he's already frustrated, unbeknownst to him, because that Overlord may have had an opportunity to scout how fast the Twilight Council was. Maybe. If it had gone in 60 seconds earlier, it would have seen the Twilight Council probably as it finished. And earlier, at least it was in building. And unfortunately, it dies instead. It doesn't get the scout and it dies. That's very frustrating. And the Stalker also does a further job of convincing Reynor that there is not going to be an adept-based attack on the way. Pro gamers, I think, are wise enough to know that it is a possibility, but when you're playing a razor-thin game, I think particularly as a Zerg player, where it's very important what you make in the drones and army with larva, this is the risk you take. Whenever you're like, Stalker, okay, I'm going to build a couple more drones. Oh my god, it's adepts. Fuck me. These 2 adepts on the front lines do get screwed over a bit, and this 3rd one as well, so that's a better start You know, 3 more Adepts, totally healthy, alive, and together would be quite a lot more. Now it's only 5 Adepts. The Lings also managed to survive in good parts to the micro. And this is a beautiful hold of something that was totally unscouted. Even the drones staying alive against the Oracle harassment, and an Oracle even dying. Huh. Well, I can tell you that's not how that was supposed to go. That, from soup to nuts, that was not how it was supposed to go. And that also has even bigger repercussions because they did not get any type of scouting done. Not that they would have seen the Spire, I think. They would have definitely been put down after the Adepts had moved on or died in a more efficient way. But that was very, very inefficient from MaxPax. And now he has 1 less Oracle to kind of dance around with. The Oracle that stayed alive is also very injured, so he might be less eager to try and send it in the kind of, what about a Spire path? The one that goes all the way back here, you know? So that's very dangerous news. MaxPax didn't get a scout on the 6th gas or the 7th and 8th that are currently building, which would also be a tell on the Spire, but he's not getting those scouts. This is very, very dangerous for MaxPax, who's already, like, probably his main focus is trying to find damage. Not necessarily about trying to scout. He does finally get a scout. I do believe the Adept trade went close enough to see that Spire, although it is very limited nowadays. That should have been close enough. And then what is the response? I'd say aggression while trying to build tech defense. I mean, if they didn't see it before, they definitely see it now. The Adepts decide to go for the Shade here. That is a lot of Adepts, my goodness. But the +1 melee is done, and once again, the drones remain relatively untouched. 1 Adept, 2 Adepts get into the main base. It's not a very big deal. Mutas are on the way. More Adepts are getting surrounded. MaxPax is losing so many units. These are not units that shoot up. They would not help against the Mutas. But the idea would be, this is like in ZVZ when you throw your roaches across the map against Mutas. The idea is that usually you can get some type of damage done as well as buy some time. Have the Mutas defend the Adepts first, then come across the map. Have the Adepts find damage of the natural and the third, and even more annoyance in the main. And instead, they got shut down about as fast as they possibly could. MaxPax has built and lost 30 Adepts. He built 13 more beyond that. Blink did finish. He did not start building a stalker count. Shockingly enough. I mean, he built more Adepts when these Adepts were dying. I guess because he's... I think I actually do get it. You know what? This is definitely not a mistake. Not that I would think it was a mistake, but just... I think I know why he's doing it. His main concern is actually dying to the Lings. He figures the Mutas can be dealt with maybe static defense, which he did build, and then whatever Phoenix he can manage to pop out. Now, it was only 2 or 3 when I was just talking, so that's not very dependable, but now it is getting up to 4 and even 6. And so the Adepts were the stopgap for the Ling pressure that was going to arrive with those Mutas, and that's really cool-headed. I certainly was panicking and wondering where the Stalkers were, and I think other Protoss might have also panicked and put a lot of mental focus on the Mutas and built Stalkers with Phoenix, and then they would have lost Stalkers to the Lings. So that's actually really... I mean, it's smart in general if you have time to think about it, but to think about it in the heat of the moment, it's quite impressive, but clearly showing a lot of experience in this scenario. Shockingly, I mean, I don't still really think MaxPax has a great game going for him, but he has 4 bases. And if 4 bases that are still alive, that is actually amazing. Reynor saved almost all of his drones from all of those Adept attacks. 100 Lings, not even a bad trade for 31 Adepts. And so he's fine too, but this, I feel like, had the potential to go way worse in both directions. The Adepts could have done way worse, or way better, depending on how you look at it. And the Mutas could have done the same. Corruptors were built as it was clear the Phoenix number was going to rise up high enough to really depend on them. These are not just emergency 1 or 2 Mutas. And this is also the most stable way to play against Mutas. With Stalkers, you can be put out of position, you can be forced into a base trade. It is very difficult to read. With Phoenix, basically the read is I beat the Mutas, I might not beat the Corruptors. With a couple of Stalkers helping out as well, it seems like it might just be good enough. Corruptor count actually wasn't that high either. +1 air weapons, though, is not done for the Phoenix, and this is where Roddy... We need a gif of Roddy shaking his head. You know, we need him to do that the in control shake of his head. We need that meme with Roddy for when Phoenix do not have +1. Someone make it for me. Probes have been pulled and then died into whatever they're pulled away from, into now the army on the front line. So 23 probes in total have gone down. Max Pack still having a lot of difficulty defending multi-pronged aggression, as those corruptors were they're just barely enough, really. Just barely. You can see that the count has really lessened, and that's not just because they've been dying, but because Reynor has not been remaxing on mutas. He has emphasized the ground army, which Max Pax knew would happen eventually, but still did not manage to get everything in the right place at the right time with the limited resources and time that he had. This is a rather desperate attack across the map, and at the end of the day, Reynor's choice here does win him the game. It looked like for a second Max Pax was going to stabilize, but it was not to be. And at 75 supply, 3 bases against a pretty much untouched Zerg economy, I think Max Pax knows he is pretty screwed. Oh, there's that +1. And legitimately, if he had +1, I'm not quite sure how he would have been able to afford it, but if he did, when the Corruptor and Muta battle happened, I think he demolishes that. +1 on Phoenix are no joke. Is no joke. Anyway, Reynor wins. GG's. It's best of 3, so game number 2 is coming up. Game 2 is going to be on ley lines. In the bottom left, it is Max Pax. In the top right, we have Reynor. Reynor looked sharp as hail. I don't know if I really emphasized that, because there were some interesting dynamics happening. But that was very impressive. The defense of the Adepts with the Lings from start to finish was very impressive. I don't know if +1 melee was done for the very first Adept defense. Might have been. Obviously, that does help. But even with that, it still can be easy to misjudge the Ling versus Adept scenario. Because Lings with +1, better than Lings without +1. Who'd have thunk it? If they don't get us around, or if they get us around, but on a number of Adepts that still, you know, basically has reached their critical mass, like, they still could die. And replacing them is not technically cheap, I guess, with so many Lings that you need, but I was thinking more on the larva. Replacing Lings, if you misjudge the Adept battle, can be the biggest strain on the Zerg because of the larva issue. So suddenly they can't use all their money, the Queen's trying to defend, but they're not as mobile, and then the Ling starts to go, you know, 5 or 6 or 8 at a time into the Adepts, get slaughtered, and it can be a real snowball in the opposite way. I mean, when you go for a Ling-based defense against the Adepts, you are looking for the surrounds, and you're looking usually for the surrounds when they are far away from the drones. So that's the other thing that was kind of amazing about how that went down. Reynor had the units, he had the micro, he had the surrounds, but he did still have to deal with Adepts in the drone line, and he yet still somehow only lost 3 drones to what ended up being almost 30 Adepts. Not all of them were in the drone line, so that's why I say almost, but 30 Adepts died. And only 3 drones died. That's crazy. You could say maybe Max Pax didn't focus fire because he was... Oh, after the first wave of Adepts, he was... And well, let's say after the second wave scouted the Spire. There you go. He was probably more so just hoping to buy time than he was trying to individually micro and make sure he got the maximum drone damage, because he needed to get going on those static defenses, he needed to get going on the static on the Phoenix building and the Stargate building. But still, I think that's pretty amazing. And then on top of that, the Oracles came in for that usual wombo combo, and they died instead of doing any more drone damage. They just got a stasis trap off. Like, that was amazing. And it set Reynor up so well. He was able to get to the Spire without any problems. And while Max Pax did an almost equally good job in a different sense of having the preparation against the mutas, of making the tough decisions when you needed to make them, you know, it still was not enough. I think he was still the one that was more so reeling off of his opponent's build than the other way around. But it's a fresh game. It's a fresh start. We got ourselves some serious Adept pressure from the very first one to now the next one, and perhaps even with the third. As all 2 Adepts are alive, a 3rd one is about to pop. It's going to stay at home, it looks of things. Maybe we build up to 5 Adepts and them across the map. Or maybe we just keep a safe 3rd base set up. So one of the things that could have also tipped off Reynor, by the way, to there being a possibility of faster Adepts, which, yeah, maybe that helped him have his army in position at the right time, was that there was no 3rd Oracle. There's really just there's a couple things you can do with the Stargate. Well, there's a lot of things you do with the Stargate. Void Ray, Phoenix Oracle, 1 Oracle, 2 Oracle, 3 Oracles. Okay. But the idea is that usually if you're going to go Oracles, 1 Oracle is a guarantee. 2 Oracles is very usual, almost a guarantee. The 3rd Oracle is the one that's a little trickier. The 3rd Oracle can either be made immediately, or it could be held off for post-Twilight Council, or it could be made not at all. And that was what he did last game, and perhaps what he's going to do again in this game. And the Zergs might be able to pick up on that, C2 with 2 Oracles, 2 Oracles, 2 Oracles. If they get a Ling over on this base, they see that there's no 3rd Oracle staying at home, and they're like, oh, okay. You emphasized some additional technology because you did not grab 150-50. 150 Oracle. This Overlord, once again, could get some freebie scouting. Unfortunately, Reynor not thinking about it as he is defending Oracle Adept harassment. See, at this point, he could try and send 20 Lings across the map and hope to cancel a 3rd base, but he does need them at home, and he is not going for a surplus of Lings. Just enough to deal with the Adepts while the Queens can try and take on these Oracles. Overlord died and also temporarily supply blocked him. Very temporarily, I think. Without getting that main scout. It did see 2 Stalkers built, though, which, I mean, to really look into it, right? Like, 1 Stalker killed an Overlord last game. No additional ones were made. It was all about the Adepts, right? A 2nd Stalker could already be a reveal that he's going into Blink. Now, I think the question would more so be how fast is that Blink? Was it emphasized so much more than anything else, like chrono-wise, or is it just coming along kind of casually? Because sometimes that early decent number Stalker attack, shall we call it, like 12 Stalkers, I guess, can be enough to get the ball rolling for the Protoss. Sometimes we even see them dive after a 4th hatch and try and get the snipe before there's a reaction. It's not that, though. Blink is not being done particularly quickly. Stasis Trap is going to help cover the Stalkers, though, without Blink. And the Oracles are full of juice, so the Lings can theoretically not get us around here. Stasis Trap kind of baited right there. He knew it was there. And we got another Ling squad ready to go for the surround, which I think is going to happen in 1 second. 1 more Stasis Trap is available. Obviously, Pulsar Beam can help out too. A little misclick there. There you have it. Another Stasis Trap gets popped. Reynor decides to go for it. Blink is not quite done there. It finishes in the nick of time, but still we're going to have a recall. Yep. Didn't... Oh, because Stalkers came here. I was like, why did he kill the last Stalker? Because Stalker's reinforcing, and Reynor, he's hungrier than just 1 Stalker. He needs 4 Stalkers to really fill him up. Doesn't find it, though. Max Pax saves all of his Stalkers? All of his Stalkers. Reynor can at least breathe easy. That hatchery is easy. It can be sniped. Can be a bit dangerous. It is not. Creep spreads on the way back as well. 5th hatchery on the way. Storm, charge, +2 for the Protoss. Reynor setting his sights on Hydras and probably Lurkers with the Hive on the way too. Ooh, that is a big Ling run by, catching not just probes but also a High Templar. That is a nice use of +1 melee Lings. Stalkers are on the forefront of the 4th again, but there's a lot of Lings still ready to go. The Stalker is going to try and take as efficient of trades as possible, but the Oracles will be better. Oh, nope, those Stalkers weren't great. Oh, and these ones, uh-oh, Ling's coming back in. It's a bit dangerous. They're waiting for the Blink. They know the Blink is going to happen. That's the micro that we're seeing here. Very... trying to anticipate, basically. It's very clever. And the Oracles are actually running out of juice. They're no longer able to help as much. And unfortunately, this looks like a just colossal loss of Stalkers. 83 Lings died, 11 Stalkers, but also the 7 probes and a High Templar. It's not game-ending, but that was, I think, very much worth it for Reynor, who not only takes all the damage there, he takes all those units down, but he also just pushed Max Packs completely, 100% back. A lot more creep spread, a lot more connecting of the bases, a lot more drones, a lot more technology that'll actually finish and be ready in time. Reynor is all over this. Like white on rice. which I've always heard as a saying, but I recently learned that it's not that popular of a saying. Maybe it's like a southern thing, I don't know. Ooh, a lovely contaminate. I like it, I like it. Contaminate, you know, one of the easier things to physically do, but one of the harder things to actually remember and do consistently. Yeah, the melee being the option as we go into lurkers is going to look a little funny. Maybe we'll get a second evolution chamber down soon. But the lurkers, there's some argument to them being kind of like siege tanks, you know, where it's like an upgrade on them is helpful, but if they're in the right place and there's enough of them, that upgrade might not make the biggest of differences. Everything will die anyway. 8 spine crawlers going down, preparing for the run-by defense. Already building spine crawlers over to the left. Lurker ready to help out, maybe? I thought maybe he was going to put it there, but he won't. And Max Pax, well, he's on 4 bases. Not quite, actually. He's getting to 4 bases, because the Ling's got to cancel on the last one. It's not the ideal scenario for a Protoss, but Reynor knows that he's got to keep Max Pax under his thumb. He can't get too complacent. He can't get too comfortable. He can't just be the defender, because that's when Max Pax takes control of the map, does a little bit of this, right? Does a little bit of the push and prod, and then builds up a Stargate army behind it. So this is Reynor trying to get on top of the army at this point, going for a surround. Storm's coming down every which way that we look. The Ling's trying to dance around them. Lurkers not really impacting the battle so much. Fantastic stasis trap on them. But this was still good enough. Better than good enough, actually. Majority loss there for Reynor was Lings. Which he can't replace easily in terms of larva, but he can replace with money. 90 drones, very consistent income, and then if larva is an issue, hydras, lurkers, good resource dumps. Little run by did cause a bit of a distraction, one that is easily and quickly taken care of as the lurkers finalized as well. We're gonna have 14 lurkers with their range and their burrow speed heading on over after killing so much of Max Pax's army. Max Pax hoping for more time or at least some damage done, runs into 5 spine crawlers. Doesn't seem too promising. Maybe he'll just shift click on the drones and hope that it does a decent amount of damage, but Reynor, he is maxed out. He's getting richer. His army composition is actually very cost efficient at this point now that we're no longer Ling based. Speaking of cost efficiency, he is even slightly winning in that department. Zealots just actually ran past the 5th. Is that what happens? And arrived at the natural. I don't even know how they got there. Maybe they came in from this warp prism. But either way, these run-bys are not doing enough. Reynor is not budging on the lurker attack. 1 Tempest is out, but that is it for now. Do we have Frenzy available? No. We also just don't have any hides on the front lines, but the Tempest can't kill all of this fast enough. Nexus is going to go down. Max Pax thrown back down to 3 bases as his 5th is not even halfway done. A secondary army is ready to tackle that as well, and Reynor looking very sharp in ZVP. Looking EWC form is what he's doing. That's what he's looking at. One last storm before... Oh, well, there's no more. There's a lot more High Templars, actually. A lot more, but their storms are not killing the lurkers. They are getting bits of damage. They aren't killing them. Still so many lurkers to tackle. Reynor does need to consider dealing with Tempest in the near future, so he is building a Spire. But he likes the aggression so far. His lurkers are still holding up. They're not dying quickly enough, and he is finding more and more damage. That defense has gone down. Units are getting pulled into the AI is getting pulled into the lurkers. Probe's starting to go down. 3rd base could go down. The 5th was already denied, and Max Pax is poor. He's broke. He's trying desperately to fit in as many Tempests as he can. That's the only reason that he has, I think, a bank, is because he's just waiting on Tempest. Nothing else. Hoping that Tempest will win him the game, but by the time he gets to enough Tempest to start to really scare these lurkers, which is actually about now, actually, but the point is we still have Corruptors possible now. The Spire is done. Bit of a bank here for Reynor. Worst case scenario, he runs away. And that gives him the time to build an anti-air army. Because I guess he's not going to go for Corruptors. He figures the Hydras might do the trick. Frenzy is on the way, which will help out. Maybe a Viper or 2. Could also make sure the Tempest and Mothership actually die. But this should be a killing blow. Reynor should feel comfortable winning this game. Maybe he grabs a 6th. Maybe he... Dang, I think that's the only thing he can really do. He grabs a 6th. And he grabs an Ultralisk Cavern. Don't think he's going to need it. Oh, there's a 6th. Rich Vespian, that makes sense. But it is unlikely that Max Pax makes the comeback happen. I think Reynor should still be very scared of the storms, since his anti-air is still Hydras. And that is very vulnerable to storms. Sees no 4th base anywhere. Warp Prism looks to buy some time, but, you know, this is expensive for Max Pax. He's so broke. Even leaving these 4 Zealots behind is quite the investment gone. Can't even get a full Warp in the main, even if he had the time to do so. A couple of Corruptors being made as all the upgrades start up as well. Now that he's got that done, and the bank is really starting to grow, I feel like Reynor might go for an attack soon. You know, like, the longer he waits, the more that Max Pax could be maxed out, technically, but on 3 bases, that can't be happening very fast. And it's more like the more that he waits, the more that he has second chances. He has Bank, he has Larva, he has upgrades. So he can go into Mass Corruptor if that is, you know, Tempest are really what's killing him. And the Corruptors even take some time to kill that Warp Prism. 6th, 7th, and 8th base are now on the way. Even a 9th, a cheeky 9th. That is Max Pax's old 4th. Void Rays are on the way as Max Pax is thinking about the Ultimate 8 late game air army and probably thinking about Corruptors more than Hydras. He actually hasn't seen the army composition as far as I saw on like the mini-map. So I'm not sure he realizes just how heavily Hydra it still is. But Storms, how many do we got? 5 High Templars with a Storm. Provided they don't die. Probably scare away most Hydras. Reynor trying to split up. Max Pax anticipated that. Has some army over here. I think that's a High Templar. Not quite with energy yet. Oh, there's a High Templar with energy. It's a good split. It is a good split. Reynor would like for him to just go ahead and give up, though. The longer this game goes on, the more that it is very terrifying to think of a Protoss maxed out with the air army that it has. Not particularly good air upgrades, but still. Reynor's not there yet either. Frenzy to try and catch one of these Tempests. Not quite. On the top side, Stasis Trap helps with a little bit of SimCity as well. Max Pax not going to give up quite yet. He sees a path to victory still. Reynor taking the very offensive bases is hoping to mine them out before Max Pax realizes. If he does, I would love the Nidus Worm. You know, that's been incorporated into more and more Zerg play. Not just Serral. But Reynor is not getting that quite yet. But that's so useful because that really does open up the opportunity to take the offensive bases in a safe way. Rather than saying, oh, well, I'll just replace 20 drones because I'm rich. And it's like, yeah, for a while that works. And then you suddenly have lost in the resource trade. And then you're wondering if you had saved 20, 40, 60 extra drones. But we'll get there when we get there. I mean, Reynor is that... He's not really scared of dying yet. He actually has replaced all the army that he was losing in some of these little trades with Corruptors, so he's at 12. Again, no particularly good upgrades on the air armies. This is another avenue of attack that Reynor has over this cliff. That's 11 Lurkers providing a lot of damage. All the army now coming to the front lines. A bunch of Archons hoping to survive the Lurker attacks, but you can see that they're really not. Tempest trying to tear them down. Immortal was trying, but the Nexus will fall. Almost all the Hydras have fallen, but they are being replaced by Corruptors, something that's a little sturdier against the Storms in particular. Zealots, again, trying to get some damage done, but Spines are available. This base, does Max Pax even know about it? He does not know about these bases. And the Lurker as well. They handle that pretty easily, don't they? Max Pax lost a base. How many is he mining from? A half. He's mining a half a base. Eventually, Reynor will tear him down. The fear is that you don't take a very good fight, and then Max Pax is able to counterattack with a maxed out army, and you don't win that fight either. Like, Reynor gets 2 fights. but it is possible that he loses both. Starting to use some Vipers for the abducts. Hopefully that makes it a little safer to kill these Tempests. Probes going down as they started long-distance mining, I suppose. 38 probes saturates the only bases that MaxPax has, though, so don't need to replace them. Reynor gonna refuse to give up this base, and the Rich Vespian with it. MaxPax might have to give up on this idea, with the ledge being so abusable by both the Lurkers and the Corruptors now. He doesn't cancel the base, though, so he's gonna try and save it at the last second. He has lost supply. 6,000 resource difference. I actually want to say is not that different from just a minute or two ago. But when you really haven't gotten any resources in the last 2 minutes, it's pretty bad. There's the attempt to go over to the right side. Maybe he'll find this base too, take it down. Not that it's not really impacting the game actually, because it's not mining, but better to take it out, and maybe if you continue to hold on, you will need that base for a 5th. Looks like MaxPax is going to try and go for it. He knows this game is close to over. He's known for a while. He's hoping that Reynor would make bigger mistakes, and Reynor has not. So now he's just going to hope that maybe some aggression favors him. It's going to take so long to really push through everything that Reynor has, though. Unless Reynor is the one that pushes into him. Just goes, whatever, I have enough, blah. But Reynor is, he's learned a little bit playing a billion ZDPs, and he knows that that would be one way to lose the game. And he say, you come to me. Ling Ultra run-bys will continue pushing you back onto 3 bases, and really 0 bases, as we are starting to mine out. Void Rays are a decent response. Yeah, that's a funny thing to it. The Void Rays don't have any upgrade, but that's fine. I mean, they're still close enough to respond. 15 probes, saturating what is like 1,000 minerals left over here. MaxPax decides to go for the attack on a less well-defended base. They will be able to kill it, but this is also already almost mined out, and there are other bases, fresh, healthy bases to mine from. Ling's gonna go after more and more of the actual structures, giving him an alternative win condition. There's the pull. Just go for it. Try and win the game. Fungal, Blinding Cloud, so many Lurkers. They do get taken down, but after trading with those Archons and Immortals, and the Corruptors are still alive, 15 of them with more no doubt being reinforced, MaxPax does finally tap out. GG's. Reynor looks very good.